Hey, everybody.
Hey, hello.
Hey.
Okay, I see we have almost everybody also from the other Zoom call. Yes, I think we are complete. Yeah, we already kicked it off because we actually started at 10, but this one was planned a half hour too
All right.
late.
I'll get Jory to update that for us, Glenn. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine, it's fine. We had a Google document that we already started. And basically, we already got some feedback that we discussed for the people who couldn't be with us. Actually, Europe and Cell, hi. From the SIG 1 section, basically. And I think we all agreed upon the goals that you guys proposed to be part of our interest. So I will adopt the page on GitHub to also include these different sections as well in that one. Yeah, we were actually at the last point, the 1.10, because we were still discussing about the Stack Overflow type of situation there. Randall, you ended it with a statement. Could you maybe?
Well, I know that Saul has very strong opinions about this one.
I do. So I'm literally just about to put a commit in on the GitHub that has moved 1.7, part of 1.7's goals to section 2. So we can discuss that today. It is saving now. Cool. Should be good.
I was talking, Saul, about context, how generally most people that post on Stack Overflow don't really know what you're doing. So like people don't, like, you shouldn't just, from a general standpoint, not copy from the internet. And I think there's an education level in there about how it's just not good, just not a good idea. And just teaching that it's not a good idea. And just going from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, I do have strong opinions about dependencies. I have to send emails every week that tell you like how many thousands of vulnerabilities are going into Python, but we take them out. We do that because we care. So yeah, what I'm interested in is there's sort of two things. We can educate people in year one, but I think moving into year two, it literally is like there's paid tools that are out there right now. And I don't think we're ever going to subvert an industry, but it is critical for some of these vulnerabilities that the surface area response globally is quick and responsive. Otherwise, you leave back doors open to things too long. So yeah, I think I would identify this as not we're trying to like integrate all of cybersecurity, but there's going to be things like Log4j where like, yeah, anything that Stack Overflow covers on that should probably have a link to additional resources, explaining how and why it can get hidden in your files, right? So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on it. But we've got like 11 things to cover in the goals, I think. So
Yeah, indeed. And, also to be fair, as it's also a year two goal, I don't know how deep we should go into it right now. I don't know what the rest of the group is thinking of it, but
yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to take about a year of curating resources and really understanding how to attack that problem and also discussions with Stack Overflow. So I think step number one is like, do you have data on this first, right? That's one of the actions that we have coming out of the last meeting. So we're, yeah, let's look into it and see.
I would also just say for like year one, I think it's just a good idea to teach people like, don't use Stack Overflow or Copilot, like use it with a grain of salt. They're supposed to be examples. They're not. I think that's worth just putting into our educational material somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could definitely do a thing around licensing for Copilot. That's a discussion that needs to be had more clearly. But so, okay, diving into this, I think is the first one. Sorry, I'm still on like the editing GitHub document. Let me not look at a diff right now. There we go.
Let me also say this, Saul. I think with the licensing, I was saying this with David, and we put this in our notes already. The conversation would need to happen with open AI, because most of what, like,
Mhm.
a lot of this comes from open AI. It's not like, a lot of people have a bone to pick with GitHub, and I understand that, but this is not entirely GitHub's fault. Like,
No.
not to pick on Microsoft, but Microsoft did do a few things here to make this happen. But
Yeah,
beyond that, like, Amazon has a tool that does it now too, and pretty
exactly.
much anyone with Codex can build their own tools. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. We definitely,
none of them are right. None of them actually take licensing into account, because that's just not something that Codex offers.
yeah. Or like recommending licensing automatically. That's an issue.
Right.
But yeah, okay. So where do we want to start with the expand training? Because we can embed that in. Wait, does someone want to share the screen? I've got the GitHub thing open, but do we have this? Is that where we want to look at this?
I think that's the right location. Yeah, we didn't make any modifications yet, right?
No, all I did was add in at the very end that like the essentially the Stack Overflow thing from section 1. So
Okay. If you would like to share the screen, that would be nice.
yeah, cool. And we have a link in the chat. Yeah, wait, so we've got a Google Doc there. This is the GitHub. Let me look at this, see if this is what we should be working with. Cool. So why don't we, so what we're doing in section 1 is working off of the Google Doc as we have the discussion. So I'll open the screen to that, and then I'll move it over to, or like someone can move it over to GitHub after the chat. And then we'll kind of do these as release notes, I think, as we, each time we have a meeting, just upload them. So here is the screen.
Cool.
Oops, wrong one. This is the one we're actually working on. There we go. Can everyone see these?
Yep.
Goal 8, where is?
It's a little small for my old eyes.
Okay, why does it
That's
start?
better. Thank you.
Why does this start at goal 8? How? Where's goals 1 through 7?
So these are the goals that were identified from the first working group that is working on the one dot whatever.
That's
And
the wrong.
yeah, they said like, hey, these don't really belong in our stream. Better to be put in our section, the education and training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you see, we all agreed that they should move actually into our scope.
Yeah.
So I put them here as a note for everybody to comment on, and yeah, what we agreed upon actually.
Cool. All right. So is there anything that we want to cover for, let's just start with 1.8. Is there anything else that we need to dive into right now just to settle this into our actual plan?
Well, we agreed that we should indeed add them to our scope. Now the question is in the what structure do they fit in our GitHub page, the section 2.
Mhm.
And when we give it a place there, I think we can just work from top to down and start clarifying the other deliverables.
Cool. So why don't we start with the part 2? Where are our actual, sorry, this is not my documentation. Where is the,
All the way up, we have a link into that one, the SIG repo, and then the long, yeah, that one, the plan. That
Cool.
is our document.
All right, sorry. All
Yeah,
right,
this one.
cool. We're back to it. All
Yes.
right. So let's run through these because these were coherently put together, and then we'll sort of backtrack and see what we're adding in, because I can add the other 2 as well. Cool. Starting with expand and improve existing content and training materials. So I think with this, I mean, the way that I would consider doing this, and I'm open to ways to do this, but I just like sort of initially looking at these and triaging them by what makes the most sense. Like, what would we want to prioritize? we're not going to hit all of these languages at once. What do we want to focus on first?
Yeah, that is indeed also the question. You know, as we, for the education material, at least like in terms of labs and hands-on things and code snippets, we already have actually JavaScript, Node, Python, Java, and I believe Microsoft is going to add also the .NET Core labs to it. So we do have already around like 70 lab examples there, open source through SKF. So I think that's at least a good start. But I would also say, well, are these really the 5 critical languages? I don't know. I actually wanted to challenge that first, but
I mean, I'm pretty happy with this list. This makes sense to me.
It's pretty comprehensive, but I
Yeah.
don't disagree that like you probably will get pushback by, I don't know, someone.
Well, okay. So my opinion on this is that whenever we're doing this training content, it works really well if you have somebody who's just like a strong dual polyglot at least. So I'd like to pair these up by sort of sets that make sense. Like you're usually not going to have someone who knows Go that doesn't also at least have touch points with Kubernetes. Like Python, it really makes sense to do also kind of, well, Python and Java you can put together. Obviously JavaScript, Node, and TypeScript, that's its own person. But I'm really curious to see if we can at least make sure that whoever is hired for these roles, we have about 20% of their development time on other people's documentation so that there's cross transfer, cross pollination, more interesting demos between them. So that's my one request for this, is that we really focus on sort of chunking into those, you know, basically developer stacks. That makes sense.
yeah, I agree with that.
Here, I'm just gonna like edit, just sorry if no one likes working with the GUI, but I'm just gonna go straight into this. So then we can, so for this, do we want to say we're hiring 2 people in this first round? So I'm just gonna write below here, focus on, this would essentially be 2 developer stacks. Of this group, what would we identify as like a developer stack? This one we very clearly have, and we already have a lot of documentation around that, right?
Yeah. And I work at Astro, we have a lot of it too.
Great. Okay.
And we want to think about how we're going to deliver that content. We want to make sure that we have like a course, documentation, make sure we have labs and SKF, and then the other paths we want to highlight this content in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, if y'all can just add links into these resources under here, that would be great.
I think in terms of course, we can link the stuff to courses that are already existing, right? So to parts of the training that David already wrote, parts of training and hands-on stuff, to stuff like WSTG, Web Security Testing Guide, Mobile Security Testing Guide, stuff that we know is also actively being maintained, so we don't have to do well, all that maintenance ourselves. So, you know, it's a shared load. That would also be pretty nice. So in that sense, see what content materials already out there and what is free and accessible, and then integrate all the hands-on stuff per languages that we see in there. So there's not only our community that is going to, well, maintain that, but also collaborate with other communities, right? And then I think we also have a greater reach because, well, then we do marketing on both levels, and that's
Exactly.
also interesting. And also, Glenn, did you know how that Google Summer of Code project has landed with converting the Markdown to videos?
It's still ongoing, yeah.
Does it seem successful?
It could be.
Okay. Well, that's also interesting because indeed videos are expensive to update. But if we could convert Markdown to videos, then every time we update our course materials, we also update the videos.
I have
So
a way
that's
of
also-
converting Markdown to presentations through like org mode. There's a project out there that I occasionally contribute to called LogSeek that could do a lot of this stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
that's awesome.
Two things. One, I'm actually genuinely interested in this. Please send a link via the chat. Secondarily, we need to get through these goals. And I think we're also going to find, like, I think that maybe like course integration might fit really well on like what we're sponsoring, right? So let's start running through this. So we've got some things that we need to fill out here. We need to really like focus on what are our strengths and what already exist and what will be maintained without our human effort, which I agree and appreciate. Goal number 2, member organizations asked to contribute, see, this is existing internal SecDev training materials. So this is exactly it, right? Cool. Let's put that under here then. So I just want to do one follow-up up here. So I think this is a good stack that makes a lot of sense. And then like, I'm going to be really, really biased here and say like, go rest Kubernetes, because I got a lot of resources around that at least, and I care a lot. So for this one, key steps and milestones, I think our number 1 key step is to find proposed courses, right? So if you can put in links under there in the next few days, that would be great. And like, oh, go ahead.
No, I am trying to find the people internally at Intel that are responsible for that content to see if we're willing to donate. We need to reach out to IBM because Jeff Borek has mentioned several times they have a similar program and they may be interested in donating.
Cool.
Same
I'm interested.
for Microsoft. It's still a work in progress. My work there.
But put those 3 orgs down as a start. We are looking to try to solicit members for contributions that way.
So we're contacting IBM. Do we have the full name for these? We're contacting
Jeff Borek, Boerck.
EORCK?
BOER, I believe.
ERCK. Cool.
Yep. Intel's me.
Okay, I can do that. So, yeah. And then from there, there was one final one.
Microsoft, me.
Oops,
Avishai.
And that's you. Okay, cool.
Now,
Anybody else who's interested?
Well, let me ask a question. So is our approach here going to be to like compile information from other sources, so therefore they can maintain their sources the way that they normally do, and we'll just pull them, or like how are we going? Yeah,
That would be nice. Yes. Less work for this group.
Really, that is the preferred way for us, because I was actually thinking that the preferred way was to contribute to the
what we
foundation.
could do, an idea that we could do is that we could like make like kind of like developer paths and essentially kind of jump around from like resource to resource, so that like we all make it kind of go together, but then we still direct people. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 3 core contacts, right? This is open source, right? We've got 3 basically engineering teams that we can pull from heavily. Let's lean on them because they're paid. That sounds good to me. Let's like run through these goals, because I really think that we're going to get some good ideas that we can action out of this, because there's a couple of things you got to bring together to make this work, because we can go beyond those corporations. All right, so sponsor existing or create alternate delivery streams for educational content, podcasts, monthly webinars, training videos, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I am curious here if we don't have another section that's focusing on, like, we've got relationships with universities, but if we don't have anything that's focusing on this, I think this is really somewhere where we could partner really well with Major League Hackathons. That would make a lot of sense for this. And they are incredibly good at training open source and can do all of this educational content. They would need financial sponsorship, but I also think that they make the most sense for this. And I think they're already very keen. And additionally, I mean, this is something that may make sense. Let's just reroute it back to the actual corporate entities, because I know that a lot of those corporate entities already work with MLH. So if they want to have cybersecurity, 10 to 20 engineers from that program, they can sponsor it possibly. So with that, that's my first thought. What are everyone else's thoughts around goal 2.3?
I like what you said.
Yeah, exactly. Was on point.
In addition to that, Sal, a group of us are be proposing a OpenSSF branded podcast that will go interview subject matter experts on secure development and related.
Wait, I'm into that. I have my own podcast. I want to chat.
Everybody be welcome, and we anticipated leveraging the membership of the SIG first and foremost.
Cool. So how do we feel about goal 2.4 as I write this in? Expand secure development through. Well, this
Christine,
is,
that question?
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a quick question because my experience with Major League hacking is that they do a lot of like the hackathon types of things. You've got experience with them doing like content as well?
Yeah, so I worked with them for years. They used to do mainly hackathons. So I would go and like give a rapid prototyping session and teach them all how to be project managers as like
Yeah.
19-year-olds. And since pandemic, they shifted to a totally digital model, but what they're doing is creating like holistic engineers. So like if you want to propose a project, you actually have to do a video entry that explains the project with narrative words, for example. So they are creating, now they've got a beautiful pathway that trains really highly specified training. I worked with them to do something pretty similar in site reliability engineering, right? Which is a pretty specialized field itself, right? So in spaces where you just need a couple of super highly, like a couple hundred of really highly qualified engineers, they can create an entire content pathway around that, especially if we're there to assist, right? So that's, and it's what I really appreciate about it is that it's entirely global. So you can restrict it if you have hiring requirements from a corporation, but if we don't, in this case, this is actually fully equitable education, which I would love.
Okay.
So, but if we have literally any other suggestions, we should be working with more than one if we can.
That's good. Yeah, I like it because working with them, they also do like a good job of getting like corporate sponsorship to
Yeah,
potentially get those folks later on into jobs.
I'll write down some, and I'll fill these in with links, but okay. So I think 1.4 is like, could be wrapped into 1.3. It's the same thing, just asking for a person. Is that it from what I read?
I think the idea was some type of production person to help assist with editing and uploading and whatnot. So yeah, I think they could be, I agree they could be merged.
Well, I mean, if we leave it, it's just establish, basically we needed to establish a job description for this, right? That's the only key outcome out of this. Okay.
Yeah, and should we then also add in the previous then, like Rob said, a specific podcast also from the OpenSSF then? I mean, that also makes sense then. Otherwise, yeah, 2.4 is a bit
Yeah.
not really needed, I would say then. And I do think we need a podcast also from OpenSSF.
Well, for now, I'm gonna make these like a 3.1, and then I'm kind of thinking we do 2.3.2, and that's the podcast. Does that make sense? Okay. So podcast, what do we want to call this?
That's just one outlet. We potentially could also do webinars. And again, the whole idea of blogs, there's a lot of different things we could lump into this category.
Okay.
Are we also planning on having more courses such as the course from David?
Yeah, that would be I think that'll come out pretty quickly from the first section where we're kind of identifying existing content. So I think we'll see a lot of advanced areas that David didn't cover yet that we'll need to create content for.
Okay, now it's not my budget, so I'm not super sensitive to it, but I need to erase one of these 300Ks or split it.
For the podcast, I'm looking at about what we have hashed out is 35 grand plus 6 grand annually for graphics and whatnot.
Okay, so is that budget independent to this budget?
Yes.
Cool.
That was something that Wheeler was supposed to comment on months ago, and I just kicked him in the butt today on.
Well, it's in now. Here, I'm just gonna write separate budget. You can clean that up. Cool. All right, I think that those are fine. We can refactor that if you want to. 2.5, expanding learning labs and SKF and other educational tools. Okay.
Yeah, and basically we can only fill this really in when we have more clarity about the other goals and actions, right? I mean,
Yeah, let's jump over it. I mean, yeah, we basically have to go and reach out and do some reconnaissance on those externals first. Okay, 2.6 then. Global partnership communities. Yeah. For this, I agree that when we got into this discussion, it was like we can literally do everything, and I would love to do everything. But where do we think we're going to have the highest surface area in year one? Because I think we can reach out to all of them, but I think we should sort of like year one, year two, this a little bit.
I think this will be dependent on the current 210, which is where we actually talk about hiring people to focus in on some of these roles.
Cool. Well,
Some of these streams.
Yeah, let's breeze through these and sort of come back to these ones that integrate. So 2.7, relationships with leading universities. So so for this one, I mean, a key milestone for this is pretty clear. It's identify what number of key partnerships would we want to identify in year one? 10, 50? 10?
How about let's start with 5?
Love
Maybe
that.
10 will be
Okay.
a stretch.
Realistic goals are always good. All right, so 5 leading universities.
What's the difference between identifying and developing?
So identifying and developing in this to add, no, so I think in this case, secure development coursework is like just secure developer coursework.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Does anyone have any pre-established relationships to universities? I have a reasonable one with, thankfully, UC San Diego, which I did not know had the only cybersecurity training in its curriculum. Very cool. Boston University and MIT, and here over in London, like University College London, but they don't do a lot of cybersecurity. But yeah, where are we thinking of reaching out for this?
Then
Well,
we can, oh, sorry.
it's also, sorry, a point I wanted to make indeed that we also have some good spreading of like the areas globally, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because of course the ones you mentioned, definitely we should reach out to them, but we should also consider the other parts of the world.
Yeah, I actually think I mean, we might consider partnering even informally. Like, I just need to talk to Kunal Kushawa about this, right? So like the reason he's got 100,000 followers is because he's from like a class B university in India, but like is great at open source. And that's what he teaches everyone to do. So that would be a great way to reach out to that space. And he's able to do everything in 3 languages, which is also a huge asset. So that would be at least one spoke of a global wheel that we can hit.
I have a pretty decent connection with Harvard, with David Malin, who's the
So where's this?
Harvard University.
All right, let's go for it.
I can email him and see what's up. I mean,
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, again, all of these are brainstorming. Let's say Boston University, because then if you have any co-located events, you can do them at the same time and space. And I would say, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna put UC San Diego on this list because they already are showing a focus in cybersecurity and I have an in there. But after that, I'm gonna not take up any more space because there's 2 more shots. Actually, I'll leave that open for now.
Oh,
That could
the-
be an undergrad.
The Linux Foundation actually has a group of folks dedicated towards engaging education. So I think we need to reach out and potentially deputize them to assist with some of this.
Actually, that's perfect. So reach out to what is that team called?
I have their cards. I have to find them.
So like LF
LF
Community
Education.
Education Outreach.
Yeah. Yeah. Wheeler has the actual people, but I have their cards somewhere.
Cool.
Yes, here.
Probably talk to them at some point. All right, cool. So we've got 2 quick starts. Let's keep moving down here and we can just, I mean, y'all know where this GitHub is. 2.8. Partner with ACM and IEEE to integrate secure software development material into general software curricula, recommendations, and accreditation requirements. My only question here is like, why are it, an honest open question, why is NIST not included in this?
I don't know that NIST is a education body, but I have no problem adding it. Wheeler
Yeah.
was really key on this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, NIST provides support, like we're talking more at sort of the really, I mean, often at sort of the PhD level and above, but they do provide educational support. But maybe this is what to focus on. So I'll leave this as it is. And I don't think they do have accreditation. So, cool. Any key milestones that we want to add to this or clear explanation of it?
I think that one will need some more work once David and other folks get a chance to look at it and actually sit down and write some thoughts on it.
Cool, works for me. 2.9. Content delivery. That really is just a content delivery. We need to write a job description for this, but we may want to write 2 job descriptions with different skill sets. I'll just write that for now. Good enough start. Okay, and then 2.10.
Yeah, this is where the group had previously started to have the idea of hiring people to focus in on particular verticals or target
Yeah.
demographics.
I'm kind of thinking it's a bit of a refactor, but like this is kind of the strongest way to prioritize that reaching out to like both universities and non-traditional pathways.
Yeah, I think we were more focused on the non-traditional, boot camp, girls who code type stuff, trade schools, more than just colleges here.
Well, it's statistically more effective. We should be doing that. So yes, please. Yeah, cool. So for this, do we need to just like what contacts do we already have? Who do we need to sort of reach out to get some balls moving for?
This is going to be write job descriptions and try to recruit people that may have, maybe we can find someone that specializes in engaging with HBCUs. That's not a skill set of mine, but I'm sure somebody in the world is specialized in that. So let's see if we can cultivate and recruit people like that.
Oh, I know exactly where to advertise for this. Cool. Your job descriptions for specific outreach goals. Well, we've got the starting of the roles, but we need a full description, so that's a good start. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then within this, do we want to, so it's not in here yet, but do we want to add in the Stack Overflow stuff, or is that still a discussion ongoing?
I sounded from Glenn that we decided we're gonna add it here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'Cause
not
it's-
only that, the rest of the points as well, right?
Yeah, indeed.
it
So-
does, it does
yeah.
feel very different from the rest of these things, though.
It's
Yeah.
our dream. We could make it as big as we want.
Yeah.
And again, if there's anything in here we don't like, we have the ability to knack it. If there's additional ideas, we have the ability to add it. Don't feel constrained to exactly everything on the page.
Exactly. All right, did my commit come through? No, it did not. I didn't save it before. But we do need to work on the wording of this anyway, so let me bring it up as it originally was. Sorry, y'all, it's literally 10 o'clock at night in the UK, but I wanted to be here for this, so I'm struggling to find, does anyone have the just language that we landed on at the end of like that first section call? We can add it in under here for 211. If you do find it, just shoot it to me in the chat and I'll put it in real quick.
And I will say, I appreciate Glenn and Ricardo and Sal for staying up late. Now that we're a little more focused, if we need to shuffle the time around, please also consider that so that it's more agreeable to everybody's schedules. I can get the meeting updated in a few minutes by poking Jory.
Cool, works for me. I mean, I was glad to get this going. So this is going to be what now? Goal number. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is the language that I found. Does this sound correct as the goal?
Yeah, I pasted them in the chat, the
yeah.
sections. Yeah, I think it was 3, I think, right? Let me see.
Let me see. Yeah, got it. Identify. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so this is from that earlier discussion. So I believe we're not like this part. So essentially we remove this part. And the goal is like for year one, just to focus on like, where are they getting this information? And is there any existing research? But the justification, reasoning, support, blah, 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 that's more education. So are we in agreement that maybe it looks like this? To scope in this goal?
Yeah.
Cool. So I mean, the first step, I think, I mean, I will give it a shot. If anyone, does anyone have any Stack Overflow contacts on this call or knows of someone who's 1 degree removed? Cool. Well, I know no one, so I will be that person. Let me find out. So reach out to Stack Overflow to see if they have any data on this. Yeah, let me find out. I do love learning about metadata from open source, so I'm interested to see.
And also if they can propose an idea on how to mitigate, like let's say that the answer has many votes, but it's bad. How do we mitigate that?
Yeah.
We have like a recommendation around that people.
Exactly. Well, yeah, point is to solve it, right? Let's
Just
Okay,
in the
great.
conversations we've had about this feels like this is going to be somebody's full-time job or a developer's job to write a robot to make it happen.
Yeah,
Or CodeQL might be able to do part of this. Because CodeQL is basically like a glorified code search engine.
yeah.
And we have contacts with Xavier over at GitHub. So we can definitely draft him and his team to give us more information on CodeQL.
Okay, so reach out to team. Cool. This is not from this. So I agree that this is probably going to need its own budget and its own person, but we did not discuss that beforehand. So what do we want to put in there?
Well, again, it depends a bit on if it's going to be a person doing it or somebody building a tool, a bot that does it, I guess. So I
Yeah.
would say let's leave it open for now.
Yeah,
I would like to talk to Xavier first and see.
Yeah.
Because if CodeQL can do this, there might be ways of maybe building like a proof of concept on something and go from there.
yeah. Let's do as much automation as possible.
Furthermore, CodeQL, their team actually has a bunch of libraries that they've already built for like a lot of common vulnerabilities to like check your app against it. So some of this work might even be done by them already.
Yeah, I must say CodeQL is good, but probably we need to build, new rules to be able to detect this. Yeah. But again, I would say let's dive into it, get some data, and see then how many time and resource we estimate for it. Randall, maybe it's also interesting. I also had a couple of chats with Xavier about CodeQL. So maybe this is something you and myself could pick up and have a chat with him as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Then we had the other two. Maybe we add those as well. The two other goals, the 1.8 and the 1.9. Do we already have those in?
Hey,
It
so
looks like
sorry.
those will have to be added.
I had to step away for 2 seconds. Is there anything that needs to be added to the document? With that
Yeah, the 1.8 and 1.9 from the chat. Those are also going to be part of our scope.
Okay, cool. Let me get those in. Where is the chat? There we go.
So I think 1.9 actually should be, well, somewhere in the first part, actually.
Yeah, so I think this fits, that goal really does make sense under those like contracted roles, right? So establish a job description for content developer. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for this one, the localization, I still kind of think this is its own. Maybe this is partnerships more because like if we take the CNCF approach, it will be kind of partnershipy. Where is that?
And that'd be perfectly fine to shove that in as a key step or milestone underneath the partnership.
Okay, so which of these? I kind of feel 2.6, but do we want to put it somewhere else? No, that doesn't make sense. Which one did we want to put it under?
Yeah. 2.3 maybe?
2.3. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, cool.
Why not 2.1?
Yeah, now you're saying it. Maybe actually one of these.
No, yeah, 2.1 I think makes way more sense for this. It's a clear goal and outcome of that. And we've already made it easy because we have a localized library for these. Yay. Done. Cool. All right. So with the last 10 minutes, is there anything that we want to focus in on review? And are we really clear on the next steps for all of these? So let's just run through them from the top real quick. So for 2.1, any last thoughts or comments on this? So I do think what we need to do here is probably write, well, I mean, okay, so we've got to first figure out where, so we'll job JDs after confirm content, where content's coming from, basically, right? Because we're going to lean on what we have the best external resources for.
Sorry, what is JD's?
Job description, thank you.
Okay, okay.
And then for 2.2, everyone's going to reach out to their contacts respectively. Thank you. 2.3. So key sponsorships, like I can reach out to MLH, will also be at OSS in 2 weeks. Community Classroom will also talk to, but I'd really ask, like, I would love to know about things that I don't know about. So if you have any ideas, add them in here. And then 2.3, so like these two sub goals, which we could break down, but this is fine for now. The job description and that sort of addition of this goal, all good. We can't take immediate action on that, I don't think, so. 2.3.2, that job description can probably be written up. Does anyone want to take that on at this time, or do we want to save that for a later time? I think that makes sense. 2.5 can't really be touched until y'all loop in. 2.6, we're also going to leave. And then 2.7, we're back to things that we can do. So reach out to the Linux Foundation education outreach, and then reach out to your university contacts, and let's see next month what that feels like. 2.8 really needs just a full loop in with David, right? So we can have that chat on Slack probably, and then get it back on here. 2.9, those two job descriptions, again, let's save those. 2.10, I think that's one where we might want to start thinking about the jobs, or at least I will, because I think that's really going to tailor it down to make sense of what that type of person is we're looking for, because they are going to be hard to find, but I know where to find them sometimes. 2.10, leave this for now. And 2.11, this one, let's definitely make sure that we do this loop in before we meet next month, because I'd love to know, like, we really need to make a decision on what that's going to look like for a couple of other things to come together. So yeah, cool. I'm happy with that. Excellent. So the two things that I'd like to know is, like, asynchronously in the meantime, when we're not, well, we should be on this document, but when we're having any discussions beyond this document, where do we want to hold those? I prefer Slack. Is there a specific channel we want to do? What's the best way to do that, or we can live in GitHub. That's equally good to me.
Yeah, that's an excellent question indeed.
So we have the Stream One Security Education Slack channel, part of the foundation. That is unique to people within the whole SIG or anyone that's kind of joined that. So that would be a place to go.
Cool. Wait, can you just send me a link to that, or I can find it in the
I would
Slack?
love to. Hold
I
on.
think I put it in the document as well, the Google Doc.
Oh, perfect. Cool.
But I can send you it. I think this was should be the link.
Got it.
There's the chat. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, cool. So we got our next actions, and then we're doing this again in a
And we
month.
also have the mailing list if we need to have kind of that threaded mode too.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. I think that's it. Is there anything else we need to cover in the meantime?
Well, I think what Rob said as well, maybe that's also good to reflect a bit on. If we indeed also now we have a list of goals, but are there also indeed missing elements in here, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we should also review to see, yeah, if this really ties it all together, what we want to achieve.
And then I would also state, since so many of us are European in Europe, let's please consider rescheduling so it's just easier for everybody. There are plenty of hours of overlap that don't take up your whole night.
That's true. Yes. So how do we do that? Are we going to vote now for a better time slot, or I mean, we're now all together.
We have everybody's email, right?
Mhm.
So let's do just an email thread between the seven of us and see if we can agree on a better time. And then I'll talk to Jory and get it officially moved in the calendar.
All right. Let me put up a new doodle then.
Cool. Works for me. Excellent. The last thing that I want to make sure that we cover is I want everyone to know that today is my birthday. So happy birthday to me. So glad to spend some of it with you all. And I just want to say that I'm vaguely almost the same age as the Linux kernel, and I feel weirdly proud of that. So yeah. Thank you.
Double congrats for that.
All right, excellent, cool. So I think so I have merged, and what a surprise, it did successfully merge. So you should see all the changes in the GitHub. So we're good. But yeah, I guess I'll talk to y'all on Slack and on the next call and on GitHub as well.
Excellent. And also potentially at the European Summit.
Yeah, I'll see you at Open SSF Day. Yeah, cool.
Cheers all. Thank you. I appreciate all the hard work and participation and late hour.
Yeah, have a good one. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Yo, bye.